Imagine a boy, bare feet on cracked concrete, no boots, no coach, no academy, just a ball, a wall, and a burning feeling inside his chest that he couldn't explain, a feeling that told him, over and over again, that he was meant for something greater than the world around him could see. Now imagine that same boy standing in front of 80,000 screaming fans, cameras flashing like lightning storms, his name echoing through the sky like a thunderclap, the most expensive footballer on the planet, a man who turned poverty into power, and pain into pure magic. This is not just a story about football. This is a story about survival, about love, about sacrifice, about a father who gave everything so his son could have something, about a kid from the back streets of Brazil who refused, absolutely refused to let the world define his limits. This is the story of Neymar da Silva Santos, Jr. And if you think you already know it, you don't. There are players who are good. There are players who are great. And then there are players who come along once in a generation, players who make you stop whatever you're doing, pull your chair a little closer, and stare at the screen in complete disbelief. Neymar is that player. He has been called the successor to Pelé. He has been called a showman, a genius, a cheat, a fraud, and a legend, sometimes in the same sentence. He has won trophies at every club he's touched. He has scored goals that defy physics. He has dribbled past defenders the way water moves around stones effortlessly, inevitably, beautifully. But before all of that, before the money, the fame, the tattoos, the pink hair, the Paris nightclubs, and the $100 million contracts, before any of it, there was just a small boy in a small town, watching his father dream of something they couldn't yet afford to believe in. Let's go back to the beginning. February 5th, 1992. A child is born in Mogi das Cruzes, a working-class city in the state of São Paulo, Brazil. His parents name him Neymar after his father, who carries the same name. And already, from day one, the weight of that name means something. It means family. It means legacy. It means you come from something, even if that something is almost nothing at all. Brazil in the early 90s was a country of contrasts. Football stadiums filled with joy, while just outside, millions of people struggled to eat. The gap between rich and poor was vast, and in cities like Mogi das Cruzes, that gap was everywhere you looked, in the crumbling roads, the overcrowded buses, the families crammed into small houses with large hearts. Neymar's family was one of those families. His father, Neymar Santos Sr., had once dreamed of being a professional footballer himself. He had talent, he had passion, but life intervened the way it always does, early, and without asking permission. He became a mechanic. He worked with his hands so that one day, his son might work with his feet. His mother, Nadine, was the quiet strength of the household, the kind of woman who stretches a small budget into a full week of meals, the kind of mother who stays up late worrying so her children can sleep in peace. She raised Neymar and his younger sister Rafaela with a gentleness and a fierceness that would shape who he became. The family didn't have much. There were times when money for food was uncertain. There were times when the electricity flickered. There were times when making it felt like a phrase that belonged to other people, people on television, people far away, people who hadn't been born in the same streets. But inside that house, there was something money cannot buy. There was love, there was belief, and there was a football. No one had to teach Neymar to love football. It was simply in him, like breath, like instinct. From the moment he could walk steadily on his feet, he was chasing a ball. From the time he could understand words, he was watching matches with his father, asking questions, absorbing everything. But it wasn't just watching that shaped him. It was the streets. In Brazil, the streets have always been football's first classroom. The concrete courts, the narrow alleyways, the dirt patches between buildings where children play until the sky goes dark and the mothers call them home. These spaces, tough and unforgiving, are where Brazilian football gets its soul, its creativity, its audacity, its love of the unexpected. And young Neymar lived in those spaces. He played futsal indoor football on hard courts, and it was here that something extraordinary began to show itself. The small court demanded quick thinking, fast feet, tight control. There was no room for laziness. Every touch had to mean something. Every move had to be decisive. Neymar didn't just adapt to these conditions. He thrived in them. He began inventing moves, tricks that no one had taught him, feints that left older boys standing still, wondering what had just happened. He would dribble in tight circles, then explode past 3 defenders in a single burst. He had this quality, this rare, electric quality, of making the impossible look casual. Word started spreading around the neighborhood, around the local courts. There's a kid, Neymar's kid, who plays like nobody you've seen. His father noticed, and his father did what any loving parent does. When they see a gift this rare, he did everything in his power to protect it. Neymar Sr. made sacrifices that don't show up in highlight reels. He drove his son to trainings. He spent money on boots they could barely afford. He pushed back against everyone who said it was a dream too big for a boy from their neighborhood. He became not just a father, but a manager, a protector, a believer, the first and most important member of Neymar's team. At the age of 11, a door opened. Santos FC, one of Brazil's most iconic football clubs, the club of the great Pelé himself, invited young Neymar for a trial. And everything changed. Santos FC is not just a football club, it is a cathedral. Inside its history lives the ghost of the greatest footballer who ever lived. Pelé wore the black and white of Santos and made the world stop breathing with what he could do with a ball. The club carries that legacy like something sacred, something that demands only the very best. So when a skinny, wide-eyed 11-year-old walked into their academy, he had to be extraordinary. He couldn't just be good, he had to be something different, something rare, something that made the coaches glance at each other, across the training pitch and nod slowly, the way experienced men nod when they've just seen something they won't forget. Neymar was all of those things. From the first session, the academy coaches saw it. The touch, the speed, the brain, the absolute fearlessness. He took on defenders twice his size and left them flat-footed. He scored goals from impossible angles. He played with a joy so pure and infectious that even the watching adults couldn't help but smile. He was accepted. He joined the academy, and he began to prepare for a life in football. But here is the part of the story that the highlight reels don't show, the part that happens in the dark, before the cameras arrive. Moving to Santos was not simple. The family's financial situation was fragile. Being part of the academy put pressure on them. There were moments of deep uncertainty, moments when the dream felt dangerously close to breaking. Some reports from people close to the family speak of times so difficult that even basic needs were a challenge. But the Neymar family held together because they understood, with a certainty that went beyond logic, that they were in the middle of something extraordinary, that the boy among them was not an ordinary child, that this dream was worth every sacrifice. And Neymar, he trained with a ferocity that belied his age. He stayed late when others went home. He practiced skills until they were automatic, until they lived in his muscles rather than his mind. He was not just talented, he was obsessed. The beautiful, productive obsession of someone who knows exactly what they want and will not stop until they have it. But football doesn't care about your dream. Football doesn't reward preparation with smooth paths. Football gives you obstacles, injuries, setbacks, doubt, and it watches to see what you do with them. Neymar's rise through the Santos youth system was not a straight line. There were coaches who questioned his style. Too flashy. Some said, too individual. Football is a team sport. You cannot build a team around tricks. These critics were not entirely wrong. The early Neymar was raw. Brilliant, yes, but raw. He had to learn when to dribble and when to pass. He had to learn the discipline that transforms talent into reliability. He had to earn trust, not just show off gifts. There were youth tournaments where Santos didn't win. There were matches where nothing clicked, where the magic seemed to disappear, where an ordinary match felt like a test of character, rather than a showcase of skill. And character is exactly what was being built. His father guided him through these moments with patience and honesty. He told his son what he needed to hear, not just what he wanted to hear. He kept the ego grounded, while keeping the confidence alive, a delicate balance, and one that shaped Neymar profoundly. By the time Neymar was 17, he had survived the academy. He had grown, he had improved, and Santos FC were preparing to introduce him to the world. On March 7, 2009, Neymar da Silva, Santos Jr. made his professional debut for Santos FC. He was 17 years old. He came on as a substitute. The crowd watched this teenager, this young boy, step onto the pitch. And within minutes, they understood. This was not an ordinary debut. This was not a kid getting a chance. This was an arrival. Brazil, that Neymar entered as a professional player, was hungry for a new idol. The nation that had given the world Pelé, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho. Brazil was always hungry for the next one. The next magician. The next player who could make a country of 200 million people feel joy all at once. And Neymar was ready to be that player. His first full season at Santos was a revelation. The goals came brilliant, creative goals that made people rewind footage just to watch again. The dribbles came tight spaces, multiple defenders, and then suddenly, impossibly, Neymar on the other side of them with the ball still at his feet. The assists came, the performances came. By 2010, he was the most talked about young footballer in South America. European clubs circled like sharks that can smell blood in the water. Real Madrid, Chelsea, Manchester City, all of them watched. All of them wanted him. The phone calls were made. The offers were put on the table. But Neymar stayed. He told the world, not arrogantly, but with a quiet conviction, that he wasn't finished at Santos. He had something to prove to Brazil first. He had a debt to pay to the club that had believed in him as a child. That loyalty was rewarded with greatness. In 2011, Neymar led Santos to the Copa Libertadores, the most prestigious club trophy in South American football for the first time since 1963, the year Pelé had done it. The echo of history was unmistakable. He won the South American Footballer of the Year award. He scored goals that circulated on the internet and made people in London, Madrid, Tokyo, and Cairo stop and say, "Who is this boy?" The world had found its answer. But here is the thing about rising stars. The brighter they burn, the more people gather around them, some to celebrate, some to criticize, some to control, some to destroy. Neymar's path to global superstardom was not clean. It was complicated. It was human. The pressure on him was immense. Brazil's media treated him like a messiah, and when you are a messiah, any imperfection becomes a betrayal. Every missed penalty, every match that didn't go well, every interview where he seemed too relaxed, too playful, too happy, they were used against him. Then came the transfer to Europe, the transfer that would define his career and complicate it. In 2013, after years of courtship from the biggest clubs in the world, Neymar signed for FC Barcelona. The transfer fee was reported at around 57 million euros, though later, legal battles in Spain would reveal the actual figures were significantly higher, sparking enormous controversy. But forget the numbers for a moment. Think about the moment. This 21-year-old young man, from the streets of Mogi das Cruzes, the kid who once played barefoot on concrete courts, the teenager who had never left Brazil before, now arriving in Barcelona, at one of the greatest clubs in football history, to play alongside Lionel Messi, alongside Andres Iniesta, alongside Xavi. Some players arrive at big clubs and shrink. The weight of expectation crushes them. They become a version of themselves that is smaller, more cautious, more afraid. Neymar did not shrink. He adapted. He observed. He learned. And then, with that characteristic mix of joy and audacity, he exploded. His first season at Barcelona had moments of brilliance and moments of adjustment. The language was new. The culture was new. The tactical system was new. He was no longer the star around whom everything orbited. He was joining an existing constellation, one that already included the greatest player on the planet. How do you exist next to Lionel Messi without being swallowed by his shadow? You be yourself, completely, unapologetically yourself. And that's what Neymar did. He let Messi be Messi. He took his own role, the creative disruptor, the left side terror, the unpredictable force who could do things that even Messi couldn't, and he owned it. The 2014-15 season was when everything crystallized. Barcelona, with Messi, Neymar, and Luis Suarez, the attacking trio that became known as MSN. They played football that felt like an argument against the laws of physics. They tore apart defenses that had prepared all week and still had no answer. They combined with a telepathy that seemed to be an ordinary human achievement. That season, Barcelona won the treble, La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and the Holy Grail, the UEFA Champions League. In the Champions League final against Juventus, Neymar scored a beautiful goal and set up the winner. He held the trophy above his head in Berlin, and in that moment, looking at his face, you could see it. Not arrogance, not relief, pure, uncontrollable joy. The joy of a boy who had believed in something impossibly large and had watched it become real. He had made it, not just to the top, to the very top, but even at the summit. Life finds ways to test you. The 2014 World Cup on Brazilian soil, in front of Brazilian people, was supposed to be Neymar's defining moment. Brazil had not won a World Cup since 2002. The pressure on the national team was colossal, and the pressure on Neymar specifically was something close to irrational. A nation of 200 million had placed its entire hope on one man's shoulders. He delivered in the group stage. He delivered in the knockout rounds. He carried Brazil forward with goals and leadership and performances that had the whole country holding its breath. And then, in the quarterfinal against Colombia, tragedy. A knee from Colombian defender Juan Camilo Ziga caught Neymar in the back. He collapsed. He was carried off the pitch on a stretcher, tears streaming down his face, a fractured vertebra. Out of the World Cup, Brazil went on without him, and Brazil, without Neymar, were humiliated. 7-1 against Germany, the most devastating defeat in Brazilian football history. A night that still haunts the country. Neymar watched from a hospital bed, and the emotions on his face in those moments told a story that words cannot fully reach. The grief of a player who cannot play, watching his country suffer, knowing he might have made a difference. It was a wound that went deeper than the physical one. Recovery, rehabilitation, return. This is where we often skip past in football stories. The months of painful physiotherapy. The days when you don't know if the body will ever feel right again. The psychological war of being an elite athlete forced into stillness. Neymar went through all of it, and he came back. The 2015 Copa América with Brazil didn't go as hoped, and the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro became the moment of redemption. Brazil, on home soil, reached the Olympic final against Germany, a rematch charged with significance. In the penalty shootout, it was Neymar who stepped up to take the decisive kick. The stadium was delirious with anxiety. He scored. Brazil won gold. Neymar fell to his knees and wept. Not quietly, openly, completely. The way only the most emotionally raw and honest people allowed themselves to cry in public. The captain, the golden goal, the tears. That image, Neymar on his knees with his face in his hands, is one of the most iconic images in Brazilian football history. He had given his country something it desperately needed. Back in Barcelona, the trophies continued, but something was shifting, something beneath the surface. By 2016 and 2017, whispers were growing louder. Neymar was restless. Paris Saint-Germain, backed by seemingly unlimited Qatari money, were circling with an offer so enormous, it seemed fictional. And then, in August 2017, it became real. PSG triggered Neymar's release clause. The fee, €222 million. 222 million, a number so staggering that the football world had to pause and recalibrate its understanding of what was possible. The most expensive transfer in the history of the sport, by far, by a distance that made every previous record look modest. The reaction was immediate and polarizing. Some said it was madness. Some said it was the end of football's financial sanity. Others said it was simply the free market at work, that Neymar was worth it, that any player who could fill stadiums, sell shirts, attract global attention, and change matches on his own was worth whatever someone was willing to pay. In Paris, Neymar arrived like a head of state. The city stopped. The press conference was a spectacle. He wore a white suit and smiled and said all the right things about ambition and wanting to be the best. But Paris would prove to be the most difficult chapter of his story. Paris Saint-Germain had everything money could buy. But football doesn't run on money alone. It runs on chemistry, on courage, on the ability to perform when it matters most. In the Champions League, the competition PSG had built this project around. The trophy Qatar wanted above all else. Neymar and PSG got close. They reached the final in 2020, only to lose narrowly to Bayern Munich. Heartbreak, again, and injuries. So many injuries. Foot, ankle, foot again. The pattern that became a curse each season. Just as PSG were entering the critical phase of the Champions League, Neymar would get hurt. The timing was brutal. The frustration was visible. The criticism was relentless. French media turned on him. Social media mocked him. The sheer scale of his fee meant that every imperfect match, every absence, every moment of inconsistency was magnified to an unbearable degree. He was called fragile. He was called unmotivated. He was called a player who partied too much and trained too little. Some of these criticisms had a grain of truth. Others were simply the cruelty that people project onto those they have built to hide. The same culture that creates idols also enjoys watching them fall. Through all of it, Neymar continued to play, to score brilliant goals, to create moments of pure magic even in difficult seasons. But that consistency, the season-long, injury-free, peak performance consistency was always slightly out of reach. And then came Al Hilal, Saudi Arabia. In the summer of 2023, Neymar made the move that many in Europe saw as a final exit, from PSG to Al Hilal, in the Saudi Pro League, in a deal reportedly worth around €90 million per year. The football world debated fiercely. Was this the end? Was this a 31-year-old player choosing money over competition? Or was this a man in a different phase of life? One who had given Europe a decade of brilliance, and now deserved to make his own choices without the weight of the world's judgment. The debate barely had time to settle before football reminded everyone of its cruelty. In October 2023, playing for the Brazilian national team, Neymar suffered a complete rupture of his anterior cruciate ligament, his ACL, one of the most serious injuries in football. 12 months, minimum, of recovery, possibly more. The image of Neymar lying on the pitch in tears, holding his knee, was devastating, not just because of the physical injury, but because of everything it represented. Another setback, another long road back, another test of a man who had already endured so many tests. He was 31 years old. The road back from an ACL at that age is long, uncertain, and brutal. Some players come back fully. Some never rediscover what they had. The body changes. The mind carries the memory of the injury like extra weight. Whether Neymar will return to the heights of his career remains one of football's open questions. But let us step back for a moment, because in the noise of controversies and debates, it's easy to lose sight of something fundamental. Let us talk about what Neymar has actually done. Over 700 career appearances, over 400 goals, dozens of trophies at club and international level, UEFA Champions League winner, Copa Libertadores winner, Olympic gold medalist, Brazilian Serie A champion, French Ligue 1 champion, Copa del Rey winner, Confederations Cup winner. He has worn the yellow shirt of Brazil over 120 times. He is Brazil's all-time top scorer, surpassing Pelé's long-standing record. Read that again. He surpassed the record of Pelé, of the greatest footballer in Brazilian history. In a country that treats football like religion, Neymar has become the highest scorer the religion has ever produced. He has scored goals that will live forever in the memory of anyone who saw them. The audacious backhill against Villarreal, the breathtaking dribble and finish against Santos in the 2011 Copa Libertadores, the curling free kick against Japan, the magical goal from beyond the edge of the box at the 2014 World Cup. Each one a story, each one a reminder of why this man, at his best, is like nothing else in football. He is not just a player who scores goals. He is a player who changes the emotional temperature of a match. His presence on the pitch, when he is fully fit, fully confident, fully himself, alters what defenders are thinking, what coaches are planning, what fans are feeling. He makes stadiums hold their breath. Outside of football, Neymar's life is a universe unto itself. His relationship with his family is the emotional core of everything. His father, the man who sacrificed so much, who drove those early morning journeys to Santos, who turned down enormous sums to manage his son rather than sell him to outside agencies, remains one of the most important figures in Neymar's life. The bond between them is one of the most moving threads in this story. A father who gave up his dream so his son could live one, and a son who has never forgotten it. His sister Rafaela is his closest confidant. Their sibling bond is famously close. They match tattoos. They celebrate together. They are photographed everywhere together, with the easy warmth of people who genuinely love each other. His son Davi Luca, born in 2011, occupies a space in Neymar's heart that no trophy can reach. Becoming a father so young at 19 was challenging and transformative. Neymar has spoken about how fatherhood changed his sense of responsibility, his sense of purpose. In recent years, he has welcomed more children into his family, including daughter Mavi, born in 2023. The image of Neymar as a father, playful, devoted, overwhelmed with love, is very different from the tabloid version of Neymar as the reckless party boy. Both are part of him. Human beings are not simple. His lifestyle is, by any measure, extraordinary. A net worth estimated at around $200 million, properties in Paris, Barcelona, and Brazil, a private island, a fleet of luxury cars that includes Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Porsches, and Audis, yacht holidays, private jets, parties that become news events. He has been criticized for this success, and the criticism sometimes has merit. There have been moments where his commitment appeared in question, where the lifestyle seemed to outshine the dedication. But there is another truth here. This is a boy who grew up without enough money for football boots, who watched his father struggle to make ends meet, who understood from childhood that poverty is not romantic, it is difficult, and it leaves marks. For that boy to grow up and build a life of abundance, to give his children everything he didn't have, is not simply vanity. It is the fulfillment of a journey that started in hardship and arrived somewhere extraordinary. He has also given back. The Neymar Júnior Project Institute, based in his hometown area of Praia Grande, provides sports and arts education to over 10,000 children from low-income families every year. This is not just a charitable gesture. This is Neymar looking at kids who remind him of himself and deciding that they deserve a chance to. The institute reflects something in him that the tabloids rarely photograph: the boy who remembers where he came from. No story this large comes without controversy, and Neymar has had plenty. The transfer fee controversy in Spain, where Barcelona faced legal scrutiny over the reported versus actual cost of his signing, cast a shadow over his departure. The legal proceedings were complex, and the full picture remains disputed. His diving, the theatrical falls, the cries for fouls, the rolling on the ground became a cultural meme. During the 2018 World Cup, opponents, pundits, and fans from around the world mocked him mercilessly. Some of the criticism was fair. Elite players should not need to exaggerate contact. But football has never been a sport entirely free of gamesmanship, and Neymar's version was simply louder and more visible than most. An accusation of sexual assault was made against him in 2019. He denied the allegations firmly. The Brazilian prosecutor's office ultimately closed the case, citing insufficient evidence. But the episode left a mark on his reputation that no legal outcome fully erases, and the ongoing questions about his commitment and professionalism, the parties, the absences, the social media presence have shadowed him throughout his time in Europe. These are parts of Neymar that cannot be separated from the full portrait. A complete story does not choose only the beautiful brushstrokes, it includes the difficult ones too. But after everything, all the goals, all the controversies, all the trophies, all the injuries, all the tears, all the joy, what does Neymar's legacy actually mean? Think about what he represented to a generation of children in Brazil. Kids who grew up watching him play street football on YouTube at 2 in the morning. Kids who tried to copy his dribbles in the playground the next morning. Kids who wore his name on their backs and believed, really, truly believed, that maybe, just maybe, someone from a neighborhood like theirs could reach the heights that seemed reserved for people from somewhere else. He democratized the dream. And think about what he brought to football itself. In an era when the game increasingly rewards athletic power, bigger, faster, stronger, Neymar brought beauty. He brought joy. He brought the reminder that football is not just a competition. It is an art form. It is a language. It is the way that humans, at their most creative, express something about freedom and imagination. His dribbling is not just a technical achievement. It is a philosophy. It says, I will not do the safe thing. I will not play it simple. I will try the impossible, because that is what makes this beautiful. Football needs that. Always has. always will. Pelé had it, Maradona had it, Ronaldinho had it, and Neymar, flawed, brilliant, complicated, magnificent Neymar has it too. It runs through him like a river. It is the truest, most permanent thing about him. His journey is not over. Even as we speak, he is somewhere rehabbing a knee, kicking a ball against a wall, willing his body to give him one more chance. The career is not finished. The story is not complete. But even if he never plays a meaningful match again, which no one hopes for, his place in history is already secured, permanent, untouchable. Brazil's all-time top scorer, Champions League winner, Olympic champion, record-breaking transfer, a player who made stadiums around the world stop breathing, a kid from a small city, bare feet on cracked concrete, a ball, a wall, and a dream to beak for the neighborhood. He made it real. You know, we live in a world that loves simplicity. We want our heroes to be pure and our villains to be clear. We want stories that go in straight lines. But real stories, human stories, never work that way. Neymar is not a simple story. He's the boy who made his father cry tears of joy. He is the player who made a country weep with pride. He is the man who made the most expensive contract in football history look insufficient for what he could do on his best days. He is the person who built a school for 10,000 children who reminded him of himself. He is also the man who frustrated managers, who divided locker rooms, who sometimes chose the flash over the focus. He is both. He's all of it. And that's what makes him unforgettable. Because the greatest stories are never about perfect people. They are about real people. People who carry their contradictions openly. People who love completely, fail publicly, rise again, fall again, and keep going anyway. Neymar kept going. Through the poverty of his childhood. Through the pressure of being Brazil's chosen one. Through the weight of the world's most expensive price tag. Through the injuries that broke his body again and again. Through the criticism that tried to break his spirit. He kept going. And somewhere right now, there's a child watching old Neymar highlights on a phone with a cracked screen. In a small room in a city nobody knows. And that child is thinking, if he could do it, maybe I can too. That is the real legacy. Not the trophies. Not the records. Not the 200 million euros. The belief that has no price tag and no expiry date. The belief that passes from one generation to the next like a torch held high in the dark. Neymar lit that torch, and it burns on. Thank you for watching. If the story moved you, share it with someone who needs to believe in something today. Subscribe for more stories like this one, stories of the human spirit, told through the beautiful game.